Hello, I'm General Waffles of the Breakfast Brigade. Let's talk about what it means to be an overpowered hero. Now, the video in the background is just for decoration purposes, and it is a ranked 1 Hero League match for anyone that cares. Without further ado, what is an OP hero? What makes a hero broken or overpowered or toxic? Now, what that really means is that your hero has something about them that changes the game so dynamically that there's nothing that you can do against them. There is no built-in counter in the game or in the systems to stop them from doing what they want. One of the very best examples of this is Murky. Murky did not always be the fish that he was today. Murky used to be horrifying. So, Murky had an ability that would drop a pufferfish when he died. So the typical Murky strategy was go really far forward, put down your egg, and you have 2 charges of pufferfish. So you throw 2 charges of pufferfish into the turrets, and then you walk into the turrets and let them kill you. This would drop another pufferfish, allowing you to respawn to do it again. And you would continue this. The only way to stop this is by devoting a lot of time to stopping Murky. And since he only comes back in 5 seconds, you have to find his egg, and then the rest of his team can usually just kind of gain objective power because of this. There wasn't really anything that stopped him. Next, Murky got reworked, and nobody played him. However, this opened up to something that people used to do, but it was just more effective to throw pufferfish. So what you had with Murky was the Octograb combo. He got Live in the Dream, and suddenly he was putting out a lot of damage, and you would throw a pufferfish and push one button, your ultimate, and lock them down for 3 seconds for a pufferfish to explode on them. At level 20, you can upgrade the Octograb to and a Shark 2 to deal 30,000% more damage, something like that. And most characters, even today, with a full combo Murky build, can kill almost every assassin in the game by himself. Now, this was before Cleanse was on every support minus Lily and... no, Lily has it, minus Tassadar. So now everybody has Cleanse and people can counter. And this made the combo being something that was overpowered and broken to something that's just annoying but manageable. Something you have to play around. And that's okay. It's okay to have abilities that have components of being overpowered as long as they're compensated. For example, with Arthas, he used to be able to walk into any engagement, no matter how bad it was, as long as you had Army of the Dead, it was nigh impossible to kill you. And there really wasn't a counter to that. You were able to just walk through enemy teams and live forever, and you're one of the best tanks in the game. That's the problem. So they fixed that, though, very thoroughly, by just nerfing that ability, taking the numbers down. And now Arthas is not played very much. So he went from being this force that you had to have in every game to being something that nobody ever did. For just a few number changes. Even more shocking is Thrall. Thrall, in my opinion, was the most overpowered release to date. Thrall was able to solo bosses and gain health, solo your core and gain health. You couldn't kill him in team fights, he would always outtrade you. And then Blizzard took away 1 tower. Just 1. Battle momentum. And suddenly, his win rate plummeted. Now, was Thrall overpowered? Yes. But he was manageable. You could manage him. Someone like Murky or Arthas, you couldn't. There wasn't an ability to do damage harder. You can't kill Arthas harder than you're already trying to kill him. Especially when his backline is eating you up and his damage is so monstrous. It still is today. So Thrall, he had an overpowered element. There was a little bit about him that made him overpowered, but he did have counters. So he wasn't really broken. You could still stun him. You could do this, and then he would be killed. Although having to save your stun just for one person, or else he would kill your entire team, is a bit much. Now moving on. Stitches is another character that was vastly overpowered, simply because of numbers again. Also, they felt like he had too much crowd control. Stitch's slam used to be able to stun people, and he also used to have sprint and blink, which is problematic with Gorge, as you can imagine. And all they really did was tone down a few numbers and take away his stun and made it into a very strong slow, and now he is at the bottom of the charts as far as win rate. It doesn't take much to dethrone a broken hero. Some heroes are broken simply because of maps. Sylvanas is the best example of this, of any hero. She has a passive ability to freeze towers and minions, and the big deal with that is any map that has a pushing objective, a big boss type objective, she can make it push forever, if it's allowed. Now, this really comes into play on the Haunted Mines. On the Haunted Mines, you summon a golem. Sylvanas can push a 30 skull golem to your core if you let her. If you allow that to happen, she will do it on the first golem. Now this, again, creates an element in the game in which needs to be played around. And since it's only on a map, it's not so bad, especially since on other maps she does okay, but she doesn't break like she does with the Haunted Mines. And you can't really nerf a hero because they're good at one map. Now moving on to another hero that completely destroys a map and is individually overpowered, and next on the chopping block to get nerfed. That would be Leoric, the Skeleton King. Now Leoric is a great example of what not to do with a hero. Strictly because his passive. So, ignoring all of his damage, ignoring his really good sustain, these are things that are okay. None of that's bad. The ability to clear minions, it's not that big of a deal. Although on the Infernal Shrines, which I believe that map, it's getting adjustments to it. I believe that map is completely unfair. Especially with Leoric, that can do the objective in one button push, for the most part. Leoric's overpoweredness comes from having an ability, a passive ability, to respawn faster. Now there's other heroes that have similar abilities. One of them is not played at all. It is Diablo. His passive is basically a better version of Diablo's passive. If you want to get down to it, it's like combining Uther's passive with Diablo's passive. And that's what you kind of got. Uther's passive allows him to still interact with the battlefield after he's died, much like Leoric. And this creates problems. If he was the only hero that had this, it wouldn't be as big of an issue. But he's basically saying that Diablo may as well not even be in the game. Diablo brings more crowd control than him, but it's not really relevant when you consider Leoric's damage. Now, all these heroes I've mentioned have been overpowered in the past or present, and they've all been overpowered for multiple reasons. Now, I can break this down into two categories. Some heroes are going to be overpowered simply for numbers reasons. They're strong heroes, they have a strong kit, and they're fairly simple. So the only things that you can really do to offset them are number changes. And that's what we've seen happen in the past. Or very slight tweaks to talents. These are characters like Arthas, Leoric, Thrall, Kel'Thas. All of these have a strong particular goal. They have very little utility to offer their team, and they basically do their one job really well. So when you nerf them, you just kind of reduce the numbers a little bit, and usually that kind of puts them, well, you can see where Arthas is right now. You can see where Stitches is right now. His numbers just fell a little bit, and suddenly they're at the bottom of the charts. Although I believe Arthas is currently in the middle somewhere of win rates. Nova's another character that people complain about a lot, and she fits in the strong and simple category. And she's had multiple nerfs throughout the game. Some of them indirect, some of them direct. She's a character that a lot of people complain about because she has the highest single target burst damage in the game. And it can feel unfair when you're playing a squishy hero like Falstad and you instantly die to Nova. I can understand this. It takes a lot of the... It seems to take a lot of the player element out of it when you don't have a chance to react. However, Nova's still a character that can only do one thing. And if a character can only do one thing, but they do it in an overpowered fashion, it's not really overpowered. So if, say there was a team fight where everybody died except for Nova, and Nova got the kill on everybody, blah blah, Nova, Nova, Nova. Nova cannot then push a lane, she cannot then take a mercenary camp, or take a tower, or anything. She's virtually useless without a team fight happening or without catching somebody. Not to mention that you can play around Nova. Once she uses her little damage, you can turn on her and kill her if she's out of position. You can detect stealth. You can look for the shimmer. Nova's numbers may have been a little high throughout the course of her character, but considering that she has this one overpowered element, it doesn't make her a broken character. Overpowered elements are all throughout MOBAs and Heroes of the Storm, I'm assuming Dota, etc. And this is strictly because these games rely on balance through imbalance. Now, before I get into that, I just want to talk about the second little subgroup, utility and difficulty. So you have your strong and simple, like Arthas, Leoric, Thrall, Kel'Thas, etc. But then you have characters that are overpowered, strictly centered around people that are good at the game, that are very good at the hero, that can make that hero do things. Abathur, Murky, Nazebo, Lost Vikings. These are good examples of characters that have been called overpowered for various reasons, and it really comes down to skill caps. Abathur is a character that you can give to somebody just starting the game, and he will not do well at all. He will probably do horrid, because you don't know all the things. You can give it to an intermediate player and watch them play, and compare that to somebody that's really advanced, that's played 1,000 games of Abathur or what have you. The games are going to be so different, because there's so many complex utility things that these characters offer. They're so weird and underpowered in certain ways that make them overpowered in other ways. This is their compensation. Nazebo, for example, he's a really safe character that can put out a lot of damage. He doesn't have any escapes, and that's one of his key balancing factors, is that he doesn't have escapes. However, all of his damage is also over time. And when you compare that to somebody like Jaina, Kel'Thas, Murky, what have you, their damage comes all at once. Nazebo's has to come over a long period, and you can heal through it fairly easily. Now, the Leaping Spiders, that's his broken ability. That's his ability that pushes him over the edge and makes him his character. All the other abilities require a lot more finesse to use. His Zombie Wall, his Plague of Toads. And these are the balancing factors in play that keep Nazebo from being a broken character. Not everybody can step into a game with an Abathur, Murky, Nazebo, Lost Vikings and do well. You need to learn them. However, people that are really good at them are able to push them to a state that seems like they're overpowered. Now, I mentioned before that this game focuses balance around imbalance. That's very true. Almost every character, hero in the game has something about them that makes them overpowered in some way. Now, Leoric has his healing, but we know the obvious ones. Let's look at someone that's not played at all. Let's look at Falstad. Hardly ever played. However, his mount ability is insanely overpowered, if you think about it. It's an ability to be at every objective while also being able to split push lanes effectively. However, we all know that he's not overpowered because his damage is fairly unsafe to do in the current meta, and he's very squishy and susceptible to burst. So he's not picked very often. Illidan is a character that used to be one of the most overpowered characters in the game. And this was scaled back, so now he's not played very much. Not only was he scaled back, but he was balanced strictly because Jaina and Kel'Thas were added to the game. Both these characters do very well against Illidan, strictly because Illidan's evasion doesn't block spell damage. You can talent for it, but then you're sacrificing. This is the problem of Illidan, of only having one real build to go with. You can't mix and match his abilities to make him more utilitarian. He's a strong and simple hero. You can't change him up on the fly, and you can't make him do other things. He doesn't offer something other than damage. Something that someone like Abathur. Abathur offers damage, pushing power, shields, healing. He can take Merc camps by himself, if you know what you're doing with that. He offers all these things, plus total map control, map awareness. He can be anywhere on the map if he talents for it. He can talent to fight harder, to push harder. No matter what team you put him on, there's something that he's going to be able to add in some way. Though, it is worth mentioning, Abathur is not the top dog at all anymore when it comes to picks. But just having this utility, these options available, make him a lot stronger and a lot harder to tone back than somebody like Thrall, who all they had to do was remove a single talent to make him from being this overpowered destruction wrecking ball to this really low win rate assassin that doesn't have a gap closer. So in finish, I would like to say that you should kind of think a little bit more before you start trying to say that things are overpowered, and trying to understand that heroes do actually have strengths that you need to play to. And just because a hero seems bad doesn't mean that you can't do well with it. You can always overcome the drawbacks of a hero, especially if you're combining these with synergies. Like Illidan, for example, a lot of people wouldn't consider him a very great pick these days, but when you combo him with Abathur for the attack speed increase, and you put a Brightwing behind him, and you put another support behind him, suddenly he's winning championships. Well, that's all I got to say about this topic for now. If you disagree with anything that I say, feel free to let me know in the comments, or just message me directly if you don't want to comment. Anyway, till next time.